Welcome back everyone to GGN. This is part 2 for this news report today for Wednesday, June 26, 2013. I'm ready to go here. I'm going to cover, I guess you can call it eco-fascism, but it really just molds into eugenics, social engineering, and of course the economy. So climate change and financial instability seen as top global threats. So it says here, publics around the world are concerned about the effects of global climate change and international financial instability. That's basically the looting of all the nations that are left and all the fraud that goes on that's totally unaccountable. It's wealth consolidation. That's what we'll get into, with majorities in many of the nations surveyed saying these are major threats to their countries, but Islamic extremism is also a serious concern, particularly in the United States, Europe, and sub-Saharan Africa. In contrast, few consider American or Chinese power and influence a major threat to their countries. Global climate change, U.S. 40%, Canada 54%, saying that it's a major threat to their country, 54% for Europe, Middle East 42%, Asia 56%, so they're being trained well. Latin America, because they're industrial and they're polluting, so Latin America is 65%, Africa 54%, so. Funny, they got Iran's nuclear program and North Korea's nuclear program up there. You don't see Israel's or Russia's or United States. It's like, come on. International Islamic extremist groups. Who's the biggest threat? Who are they threatening? It's Zionists. That's their biggest threat. And unfortunately, because of what the Zionist-occupied government of the United States does, along with Europe. What they do to these Muslims, it just pisses them off. So then they come back and they kill mostly non-Zionist people. Then, of course, the economy. Well, who runs the economy? Well, it's mostly Jewish bankers, Jewish banking families. We all know that. Obama's climate change speech closed to the public, open to the activists. So several hundred people are invited to the closed-door speech at Georgetown University today. So, they include the Sierra Club. A group of people were outside the gates of Georgetown calling on climate action. One participant said they were organizing outside because they weren't allowed into the speech. Hopefully you see this the theme in today's videos about engineered consent. I like to kind of highlight that in the mainstream media, how they're engineering people's consent. They make decisions, they put out public relation releases in the media. Of course, the media just puts it all out there and then tells you why you want that to happen. In response to a question about the speech being closed to the public, senior White House official said Obama will deliver remarks before several hundred stakeholders active in leading the efforts to address climate change by reducing carbon pollution, including business leaders, environmental organizations that could all controlled opposition, faith leaders, scientists. I guess it's not going to be all the thousands of scientists that signed on that's petition saying that, well, they don't really believe in climate change anymore, and students, because they can always exploit them too. But stakeholders, that's the key word. Obama mocks skeptics of climate change as Flat Earth Society. Says, we don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society, Obama said. Sticking your head in the sand might make you feel safer, but it's not going to protect you from the coming storm. So I guess you can say the same thing about chemtrails, spraying of aerosols, Obama, You can stick your head in the sand and act like they're not spraying the skies full of toxic chemicals, but hey, But it's not going to protect you from the engineered storm that probably kills people and damages people. So when you go there with your little crocodile tears, like in Oklahoma or whatever, you can chuck that up to not to climate change, or not to man-made climate change, but yeah, you could man-made climate change through weather modification. So he said that he's lacked patience for anyone who denies that this problem is real. So he doesn't like skeptics. So he's got to tell you, he's got to engineer people's consent saying, well, look, you're wrong, right? You're not an expert. The planet is warming. Human activity is contributing to it. We know that the cost of these events could be measured in lost lives and lost livelihoods. So now he cares about lost livelihoods. The president noted that the 12 warmest years in recorded history have all come in the last 15 years. That's actually a lie. There's actually been it's actually kind of leveled off, the warming, so it's almost either zero or nilch, or it's actually cooled. Obama quietly raises carbon price as cost to climate increases, buried a little known notice rule on microwave ovens is a change in the U.S. government's accounting for carbon emissions that could have wide-ranging implications for everything from power plants to the Keystone Pipeline, and an increase of so-called social costs of carbon to $38 a metric ton in 2015 from $23. Adjust the calculation the government uses to weigh the costs and benefits of proposed regulations. It's meant to approximate losses from global warming, such as flood damage and diminished crops. So, there you go. So, this is going to pay for their side effects of weather modification. UN official admits we redistribute world's wealth by climate policy from back in 2010. So this has almost nothing to do with environmental policy. So this was a United Nations IPCC panel member. We redistribute de facto the world's wealth by climate policy. So it kind of might make sense and ties into this. UK austerity, diverting money from poor to rich under guise of economic crisis. That's why I call it a wealth consolidation operation of 2008, right? And really, even political economic integration. The UK's austerity policy is ideologically driven and is aimed at diverting finance from the poor to the rich under the pretext of economic crisis, writer John White told RT. Recession ushers in widest income inequality gap on record. Top fifth of Americans earn 49% of all income in the United States. Top fifth earn half of all income in the U.S. Bottom fifth receive just 3.4%. U.S. has greatest disparity among Western industrialized nations. Land of opportunity. And you'll still hear slaves saying that, as if they're still kind of a nation state in patriotism. California man faces 13 years in jail for scribbling anti-bank messages in chalk. So there you go. The recent Haarp status so far, current long-wave frequency magnitude readings. You had the West Coast right now is at high, followed by all the way in the East Coast, basically low-medium. I guess the quote best area would be right there, thin stretch in the Midwest and in the Southeast. I personally think that they're carrying out lightning and thunder operations. That's what we've been getting lately. So, in the Midwest. Obama climate change plan. War on coal would make natural gas prices 42%. Hike natural gas prices 42%. So, but what does it do? It also does what we were talking about in the last video, which is it provides cheap coal and competes against Gazprom. Then, what? Hiking natural gas prices 42%. So, He's natural gas as boy, man. Golden boy. Remember when the Bush said going into Iraq would and killing a bunch of Iraqis would bring gas prices down? Remember the shale gas revolution that would bring stably low natural gas prices and fuel a manufacturing renaissance in the U.S.? Well, the Obama regime's war on coal will drive up natural gas prices, and the American manufacturing base will be a casualty. Come hell or high water, Great Green Fleet will sail. The U.S. Navy plans to launch an entire biofuel-enabled Great Green Fleet in 2016, complete with fighter jets, helicopters, destroyers, and other ships, despite attempts by certain members of Congress to block it from buying biofuels. So it's in the latest development that DoD has just nailed down $16 million in the match funds for 3 companies to build biofuel refineries to the tune of 150 million gallons in capacity by 2016, all using non-edible source, including animal fats and other waste from from food processors. So I never even heard of that, but Tyson Foods and Syntroleum joint venture opens advanced biofuels plant in Louisiana. So operations are underway in the new dynamic fuels plant, successfully converting animal fats and greases into high-quality renewable fuels. So what we're talking about here ultimately is these dead zones, right? The great algae conspiracy, our oceans being destroyed to replace oil with algae. And what he describes as a mother of all conspiracy theorists, an Arizona-based talk radio host, says the powers that be are intentionally destroying large bodies of water in a bid to create a multi-trillion-dollar biofuel industry. So it involves the Obama administration and many others like billionaires, select politicians, BP, Exxon, Nalco, GM, GE, Goldman Sachs, and including the Department of Defense, which are all deeply invested in biofuels. Gulf of Mexico could see record-sized dead zones from pollution this year. This is from June 26. So this is something that's behind the scenes that nobody's really talking about too much. The Gulf of Mexico could see record-sized dead zone this year of oxygen-deprived waters resulting from pollution. and probably corrects it and everything that BP did, right? Because they're going to have a large investment in biofuels. Dead zone could be as large as New Jersey. They are toxic to marine life and are caused by excessive nutrient pollution due to agricultural runoff, influenced by weather, precipitation, wind, and temperature. There's little oxygen in the water. Most marine life near the bottom is unable to survive, which could be part of the reason for mass die-off. Who knows? Climate change likely to increase Lake Erie algae blooms and dead zones. This is from September 2012. I remember covering this. Climate change is expected to increase the frequency of intense spring rainstorms in the Great Lakes region throughout the century, will add to the number of harmful algae blooms and dead zones in Lake Erie unless additional conservation actions are taken, according to the University of Michigan. Might as well be University of Chicago, right? Pipeline spills 5,000 liters of oil in Alberta, Canada. Leave more than 5,000 liters of oil in the province of Alberta, close to where most First Nation residents live. Study links fracking with methane-contaminated drinking water. Household drinking water that comes from wells known for fracking sites contains levels of methane 6 times greater than what's common elsewhere in the study. So, pretty interesting. And EPA just said that they're not going to look into the link of contamination and fracking. So that was good for them. Good looking out. Monsanto blames GM wheat contamination on activists. So it says in the case of unapproved GM wheat recently found in Oregon, they point the fingers at sabotaging activists. When the unapproved strain of GMO wheat was discovered in an Oregon wheat field, the Roundup Ready strain was nixed in 2005 when global resistance to Monsanto forced the company to stop working on it. It was never approved for use, let alone growing and exporting. Monsanto earnings drop on higher seed production costs. The largest seed company reported third quarter earnings fell 3% as increased seed production costs overshadowed rising prices for Roundup herbicide. And this link will be posted. You can go and check it out. Bentonite clay to detox pesticides, heavy metals, and harmful pathogens. So this is pretty good stuff. Healing clays. Native American tribes call bentonite Iwaki, which means the mud that heals. So it also goes back to Mesopotamia. So I use this stuff every day. The Yerba is a pretty good brand. Yerba Primo. You get the big bottle. It's like $9 on Amazon. So I don't get it in the store. They really overcharged there. Then you have potato prices up 213% compared with April 2012. Potato prices were more than 213% higher in April compared to the same time last year. Cereal prices have risen by over 30% in the same period. Vegetable prices rose by 1.5%. Animal products, it says here, like milk, eggs, and wool, was slightly up on a monthly basis, but 14% higher on year-end. Animal prices were 4% higher overall. Pig prices rising by 10%. Cost of feeding stuffs was up by nearly 20%. Also, the cost of energy fell 1% between 2012 and 2013 of April, despite a 7% rise, almost 8% rise in cost of electricity. GM surge in digital dementia. So they're reporting a surge in digital dementia among young people who have become so reliant on electronic devices that they can no longer remember everyday details like their phone numbers. Deteriorating cognitive abilities are more commonly seen in people who have suffered a head injury or psychiatric illness. Overuse of these smartphones and gaming devices hampers the balanced development of the brain. Heavy users are likely to develop the left side of the brains, leaving the right side untapped or underdeveloped. It says parents who work for elite Silicon Valley firms send their children to school with no computers. So the children of the tech officer from eBay and all these other giants send their kids to these schools with no high tech. They have pens and paper, niddling needles, occasionally mud, but not a computer to be found. No screens at all. They're not allowed in the classroom. It says, and the school even frowns on their use at home. Again, just highlights the bubble, right? Like the UK politicians not having GM, but then pushing it on you. California schools to train kids to sell ObamaCare. So it says here the district will use a state grant to train teens to promote ObamaCare to family members. White House recruiting Hollywood stars for ObamaCare rollout. Talking about the Global Philanthropy Group. As clients for Madonna, Bono, and Bill Gates. That just says it all. Gross exploitation. Obama introduced by children at LGBT pride event. 6-year-old transgender girl wins right to use female restroom. Chinese migrant. But then you have a student booted from class for saying, "I don't accept gays." He won a federal lawsuit. Jury's kicked out of class for voicing disapproval for homosexuality. Prosecutors seek a gag order against 8th grader arrested over NRA shirt. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.